Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Let's dive right back into 1984. Here we are, guys. We are in chapter 5 review. Can you believe we've made it this far? This chapter is very exciting. We learn all about a new character, and his name is Syme. But through this chapter, what's really interesting, I think, first of all, is that we learn a little bit more about the poor state of the economy. Remember, everything that 19 the party tries to show about itself is that it's flourishing, it's prospering, we're doing better than we've ever done, we're winning every war, we are giving the people what they want and what they need. Yet every chapter, there's something more revealed about how they're actually in poverty. They're starving. They don't have enough money. So why is the party always projecting something great when in the reality they are struggling and failing? And they don't want to admit their failures. They just want to keep all the power for themselves. Then we meet Syme, a very odd character. And he is one of the main proponents of Newspeak. He is the one creating a dictionary for their new language. And we're going to get into what he wants to show the world about his new language and how he wants to cut down everything so that we just get down to very, very, very short vocabulary. Well, let's first go dive into the poor state of economy. So he runs into Syme at the cafeteria. Remember, Syme works at the same in the party. He works for the party and he does similar things that Winston might do in helping the party function. But I really love this scene here. So he says, "Just the man I was looking for," said a voice at Winston's back. He turned around. It was his friend Syme, who worked in the research department. Perhaps friend was not exactly the right word. You did not have friends nowadays. You had comrades. But there were some comrades whose society was pleasanter than that of others. Now remember, they use the word comrade to show that there's no difference between anybody else, right? We are brothers. We're on the same level. There's no higher class, lower class. So you have to call everybody comrade in order to show that there's no trace of the old tradition institution of having classes. Syme was a philologist, which means he studies language, and he is a specialist in newspeak. Indeed, he was one of the enormous team of experts now engaged in compiling the 11th edition of the Newspeak Dictionary. He was a tiny creature, smaller than Winston, with dark hair and large protuberant eyes, at once mournful, sad, and derisive, which seemed to search your face closely while he was speaking to you. Derisive might mean he looks down at you. "I wanted to ask you whether you got any razor blades." That's a strange question to ask someone. However, it's not if you think about the poor state of the economy. "No, not one," said Winston with a sort of guilty haste. "I've tried all over the place. They don't exist any longer." Everyone kept asking you for razor blades. Actually, he had two unused ones which he was hoarding up. There had been a famine for them for the past months, meaning they're starving of razor blades. They don't have enough razor blades. At any given moment, there was some necessary article which the party shops were unable to supply. Sometimes it was buttons, sometimes it was darning wool, sometimes it was shoelaces. At present, it was razor blades. You could only get hold of them, if at all, by scrounging more or less furtively on the free market. And then Syme says, "I've been using the same blade for 6 weeks," he added. Oh, sorry, this is actually Winston lying. "I've been using the same blade for 6 weeks," he added untruthfully. He doesn't want to give his only razor blade to Syme. They're not really friends. He said, "You don't really have friends in this kind of world. Remember, the 1984 is not a fun place where you have friends." So I just wanted to show you, those little hints where the author drops just in what poor state this economy is in. Just how much the party has sucked dry everything that people love: coffee, razor blades, love, friendship. And I want you, as you keep reading, to think about when you find pieces of evidence for this poor state of economy, just continue to keep data in your mind about what is so bad about 1984. So before we talk about Syme, I'm actually going to have you do some work. So we are going to go to the Google Classroom. We're going to go to week 23, 1984 activity, and let's go take a look at what you're going to do for activity number 1. Here we are. Okay, activity number 1, for today. You're going to be finding three quotes that reveal something interesting about Syme's character, and you're going to paste them in the left column below. So you have three places to put quotes. Don't do a quote that maybe that I've already read today. Try something different. Then in the right column, tell us what that quote shows about Syme. What interesting characteristic or trait does it show us about Syme? You're going to have 10 minutes to complete this activity, and then the lesson will resume. Okay, we are moving on. Hopefully, you found some really good quotes, and I just want to go and take a look at some aspects of Syme's character, as well as this language of newspeak that he's so obsessed with. He's absolutely in love and enamored by the idea of cutting down the language so much that humans barely have anything to say. Now, why would the party want that? Right? Why would the party want people to have fewer things to say? Well, perhaps it will make it so that there's less likely for them to rebel, less likely for them to question things, less likely for them to discuss things with other people. If we don't have language, we don't have the ability to connect as humans. And 1984 doesn't want you to connect with anybody because that would mean a threat to the party in power. So let's take a look at this fun passage here. The 11th edition is the definitive edition, Syme said. We're getting the language into its final shape, the shape it's going to have when nobody speaks anything else. When we've finished with it, people like you will have to learn it all over again. You think I dare say that our chief job is inventing new words, but not a bit of it. We're destroying words, scores of them, hundreds of them every day. We're cutting the language down to the bone. The 11th edition won't contain a single word that will become obsolete before the year 2050. So obsolete means we don't use it anymore. But they're like, we're never going to have a word you don't use because there's only a couple words. You see how passionate he is? Even the way he's eating his bread and swallowing his tea shows his hunger for this language. He bit hungrily into his bread and swallowed a couple mouthfuls, then continued speaking with a passion, right? A pedant, someone who's teaching. His thin, dark face had become animated. His eyes had lost their mocking expression and grown almost dreamy. Oh, it's a beautiful thing, the destruction of words. Of course, the great wastage is in the verbs and adjectives, but there are hundreds of nouns that can be got rid of as well. It isn't only the synonyms, there are also antonyms, after all. What justification is there for a word which is simply the opposite of some other word? A word contains its opposite in itself. Take good, for instance. If you have a word like good, what need is there for a word like bad? Ungood will do just as well, better, because it's an exact opposite, which the other is not. So they're trying to go for efficiency in language. However, I want to remind you there's something beautiful about our language. There's something beautiful about the fact that there's millions of words for one idea, that there's variations of words. It makes it creative. It makes it so that we all have different thoughts. What Syme wants and what Newspeak does and what the party wants is for you to not have your own individual thoughts. So he keeps going. Or again, if you want a stronger version of good, what sense is there in having a whole string of vague, useless words like excellent and splendid and all the rest of them? Plus good covers the meaning, or double plus good if you want something stronger still. Of course, we use those forms already, but in the final version of Newspeak, there will be nothing else. In the end, the whole notion of goodness and badness will be covered by only 6 words. In reality, only one word. Don't you see the beauty of that, Winston? It was Big Brother's idea originally, of course, he added as an afterthought. And then he accuses Winston of not really appreciating the language ideas that he has. He wants to slash language, he wants to destroy language. But the author, as we can see, since he's criticizing Syme, he's criticizing 1984, and he's criticizing the party, I think he's trying to show just how human we are because of language, because of how creative we are. No one would ever say the same 2 sentences. It's all imagination. But they don't want you to have an imagination. It's really hard to control people who have their own imagination. It's hard to control people who have the language to speak out. And that's what this chapter is all about. And that's what Newspeak is all about. So now that you know a little bit more about the purpose of Newspeak, I want you to continue picking up on how it is used throughout the story moving forward. We're actually going to skip chapter 6. I'm skipping around a lot because we're not going to read this whole book. It's very challenging and it's just not, we don't have the time for it. So we're going to skip chapter 6. Chapter 7 is very important though. It might be difficult. Okay, so just read it, and if you have trouble, what I really love is you read it. Maybe you struggle with it, maybe you don't know everything that's going on, but then you come here next week, and I will explain everything to you. But it's really great to try it yourself first. That is a way to really learn and to be more independent. Also, you're going to complete week 23 homework, which is adding more to your creative dystopian story. All the directions are pretty similar from the previous weeks. The only thing that you need to do is add a flashback to your story. Well, good luck, have fun, and I'll see you guys when we review chapter 7 next week.